Hello, Cancer, and welcome to the story of I Am, your 2020 mid-year reading. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, here with some astrology information for you that will take you out to the end of the year and get you ready for some what I think are going to be pretty amazing changes. Though there is this necessary phase of preparation, that you have to go through, which is going to be in the form of Mars retrograde in Aries. Before I get into that and the ideas about Aries that I have and where Aries fits into your chart and into your life. I want to just acknowledge the difficulty and the complexity of the times that we are in, and also acknowledge that you are a person whose orientation is to take care of people. As someone born under the sign Cancer rising, Cancer or Cancer rising, it is natural for you to want to take care of people and to assist people in the difficulties that they are going through. And there are a lot of people having a lot of difficulties in their life right now. And if you are one of them, make sure that you seek out the help that you need and that you are supported in the ways that you need to be supported. The second thing is that by way of introduction to these ideas, that you have gone through an unusually difficult time the past few years. It has not been easy to have a chart with a strong Cancer signature, whether that means Sun or rising sign and potentially Cancer moon. And this is because of a few things, one of which is that Pluto entered your opposite sign Capricorn in early 2008. And this set up a series of changes in your life and in the world that really are best summed up as a kind of a crumbling of social structure and social reality as we know it. And Pluto in one's opposite sign can really push someone and can represent very challenging relationship situations and even more difficult relationship situations than just challenging. And in addition to that, a changing environment of your relationships that is something you've had to grapple with and change, because nothing has really been as as it should be. Basically, that's the bottom line of Pluto going through Capricorn. And in the past 3 years, Saturn's been going through Capricorn. That may have helped some. It may have presented additional changes, and maybe some help was on the way with that the past few years in terms of finally things seeming to stabilize. But then came the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of January 12th, which basically upended the entire world. I recently learned that one of the most important events of the whole COVID situation took place on January 12th, on the day that that Saturn made a conjunction, one and only for 36 or something year cycle conjunction to Pluto. Finally, you've had eclipses moving through your sign and your opposite sign, and this finally has ended. And eclipses are never easy to deal with. They always push unexpected changes and give the feeling that the hand of fate is on your shoulder in some way, and that things are karmic and all of this, and intensified and accelerated, and that is finally over as well. So between now and the new experience of a new reality that you have is one thing mainly, and that is Mars retrograde in Aries. So I'm going to first introduce restate some of the things I've just said in a way that borrows use the visual graphic of astrology, which is one of the most helpful things that astrology can do. And by the way, I'm sorry that this is such a low light situation here. My other system upstairs is having problems. This is my third time doing this reading. Patience. Okay, I lost an hour and a half of did it yesterday, did it today. So here we are. We'll make do with the low light situation and hopefully have that situation resolved in time for the next batch of readings. Okay, so here is what your solar chart looks like. You can tell it's your chart because Cancer is on the ascendant and Capricorn is on the 7th. And the way the solar chart works is this is your arrangement, and for example, this is the arrangement of Leo. And that changes everything. That puts Aquarius on the 7th house. That's a whole other reality. If we go to Virgo, that puts Pisces on the 7th house and Gemini on the 10th house. And that's a completely different reality than you have, which is a cardinal sign rising and a cardinal sign in the 10th place or 10th position or 10th house. That means that you have had the influence of Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter coming in a very direct way, right across the event horizon for you here. You've experienced these transits directly, and that also means that they have influenced you with a deeper personal impact and also a connection to the wider world, such that the events of the wider world have felt very much personal and private for you. I mean, the Aries point, which defines the signs Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries, is the intersection of the personal and the political, and you live at that intersection in a lot of ways, and then you have spent much of the last 12 years grappling with things that have come through reality and have lodged themselves on that axis, and so this has amplified the nature of the changes that our society is going through, and it has also made them more private and personal for you, and so you felt the impact. But the other thing that it's done, the other thing that the astrology is describing is the ways that your purely personal life has been influenced by these transits. And here's how that looks to me, particularly vis-a-vis Pluto going through Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of tradition, the sign of formality. The earth signs all function like this a little bit, especially Taurus, but the things that are supposed to be of an enduring nature, particularly institutional things and societal structures, are measured through Capricorn, and you depend on that. You, as a kind of rapid cycling Cancer and someone who's very sensitive and someone who's who's present in the world with your sensitivity first. Depends upon the structure of Capricorn. You depend upon things lasting for a while. You're not the kind of person who wants transient or temporary relationships. You just simply don't want that. You're not interested in that. It's not the way that you like to live. And yet, with Pluto coming through Capricorn, this has shifted and upended all of the solid structures that you have depended upon. This could be the structures associated with your employment, with family, which is an important thing that Capricorn rules, but also your most intimate relationships are something that you depend upon to have stability and dependability and structure and some predictability to these things, and that has been very, very difficult under the influence of Pluto in Capricorn. It is as if the structures themselves have melted away and people are flaky, and they are undependable, and you have therefore had to be the source of your own dependability. You have had to find grounding in your personal private reality. You have had to be the dependable partner that you have wanted others to be, and you've probably learned how to do that pretty well and accepted that role. I'm curious what changes began since late 2017 when Saturn began its unusually spread out and long journey across your seventh house. There were probably some significant challenges there as well, and also a kind of a clearing of the decks and opening up of space in your personal relationships. And I suggest that you work with that quality of open space right now, and that you build something new in that open space, and at least take advantage of all of these changes that have happened by utilizing the benefits you may have received, and the benefits you may have received may be, for example, a reduction of commitments in some way, and a clearing out of people who just simply did not belong in your life. All right. So all that's going on. Hold that thought. These things represent what I would call environmental changes for you. All right. Now let's look at the other angle that is significant in this reading, which is the 10th place. So we just count whole signs, and we wind up in the 10th place. This will work quite well if you're Cancer rising. You can count wherever your midheaven falls. If you're Cancer rising, your midheaven is either going to fall in, chances are, in Aries or in Pisces. And you can count the Pisces midheaven. This is where mine is. The Pisces midheaven or the first degree of Aries, the Aries point, as your midheaven. And first of all, let's just talk about that in terms of the structure of the solar chart. In terms of that, the interesting thing about having Aries on the 10th house is that it makes you an inherently public person. I mean, it makes you such a public person that this thing out of ancient Greek astrology from like the 4th century BC called the Thema Mundi, probably designed by a guy named Eudoxus of Knidos, whose code name was Hermes Trismegistus, right? That actually is a person, and his name is Eudoxus of Knidos. I if you go to planetwaves.fm and play the interview with Robert Schmidt, you'll hear this discussed at length. However, what this does is it puts you right at the public-private intersection, and it puts you at the public-private intersection in this house of executive power, the 10th house. And so you hear kind of a common buzzword in psychology these days is like executive function, like the person's ability to like get up, brush their teeth, look after themselves, and do things like this, and keep their house modestly clean, keep the bills paid. That's known as executive function. But you have executive function on the level of wide scale, large executive things, like, you know, you're in charge of something much larger than your own life, and you have to be adapted to being in charge of something much larger than your own life. And if nothing else, the factors that might only influence people peripherally tend to influence you in a more direct way. And now let's talk about what is in Aries. Right around the time that Saturn entered Capricorn, just slightly a few months after, Chiron entered Aries. And what this did was it activated your 10th house, and that may have come with a crisis of some kind, a career or professional crisis of some kind. But in the end, the function of Chiron in the 10th house is to help you focus and concentrate not only your personal power, but your ability to project yourself into the work that you do. And that is the ultimate overriding theme of Mars retrograde in in Aries. I see many ways in which one stage of astrology represents preparation for the next stage, and then that in turn represents preparation for the next stage. Though Chiron in Aries began a couple of years ago, what I see Mars retrograde in Aries being about is the preparation for the full inhabiting of the power of Chiron in Aries, of fully taking up the mantle of leadership, of mentorship, of being an exemplary person, and understanding that you are a very powerful example setter for the people around you, and that you're very likely to be looked up to as an exemplar of some kind. And you may not think so. You may not think that you're anyone or anything special, or that you should be looked up to in a certain way, but the truth is that is how people see you, and that's how they perceive you. And it would be very good if you maintained awareness of that and were at peace with that. And you're going to see this arise in even more focused and intense ways with the retrograde of Mars, because that is it's an extended leadership training. Mars first entered Aries in in approximately July 1st, I believe, of 2020. And when Mars is retrograde in a sign, it spends 6 months in that sign. So it's easy to see when the retrograde completely takes place in one sign, as it does in this case, going from near the very end of Aries right out to the midpoint of Aries, and then it'll traverse back between November 13th and approximately January 2nd. Or 3rd. So you're living this out for a long time, and you're seeing the challenges of Mars retrograde manifesting in many different ways. And by the way, if you're interested in what this has been about, you have a clue what it's been about as a result of being able to review the events of July and August and getting a sense of what that is. Meanwhile, Chiron remains and will remain for another 7 years. Chiron makes its final transition out of Aries at some point in 2027. So really, more accurately, we're looking at about a total of a solid 5 more years of Chiron in Aries, and then about a year and a half of transition out, which takes us into some point in 2027. It's a very important process for you. It's a very important part of claiming your adult maturity. You could look at it as kind of an extended Saturn return. If you're approaching the age of 50, you're about to have your Chiron return, and then you can just take everything I'm saying in this video and count it 3 or 4 times as the relevance. All right, let's tie this all together now. First of all, we know these planets are in Capricorn here. We know these planets are in Aries. Look at the proximity of Mars to Eris in Aries. I'm going to get back to the Aries portion of this in a moment. I'm doing my best here. The Aries portion of this in a moment, but look at this structure. First of all, this is Eris, and it has a 550-year orbit, and it is taken since 1929. It's taken 90 years to go this far. This is very, very unusual for a planet that the mainstream people can name. Sedna takes like 20,000 years to go around the zodiac. Hardly anybody knows who Sedna is. If you study human design, you've heard of Sedna. If you're a minor planet astrologer, you've heard of Sedna. But pretty much that's it. You read Planet Waves, I mention it from time to time. But as far as a planet that's like in the astrology software, now Eris is in pretty much all the programs. And it has taken 90 years to get this far. It moves very slowly. Pluto has taken 12 years. That used to be really slow. We used to think that was super slow for a planet. So it takes 248 years to go around the whole zodiac. Eris takes 558. They are now together in a square aspect, and that is a kind of a long-standing aspect. It will stand for a long time. And then enter Mars. Mars is now conjunct Eris and square Pluto and Saturn. So these guys are conjunct, these are conjunct, and then this is a powerful Mars station retrograde because it involves making a second conjunction to Eris and a second square to Saturn and a second square to Pluto. And then when it's done, it's going to go back in direct motion and do that again. And so amidst all of this leadership training that you're in are these sequence of events that are basically power transits, and they are about you claiming your power on the one hand, and then on the other hand, they are about you learning how to use adversity and friction as a means of as a means of concentrating strength and leverage. There's tremendous leverage and integrity in squares. Squares are usually looked down upon by astrology, or by at least by astrologers, and said to represent bad things. And you can, if you have a lot of squares in your chart and you start reading astrology textbooks, you can really start to hate yourself. And I promise you, these things are not coming from the right point of view. Squares are markers of integrity, and they are they are one of the essential building blocks upon which the adult psyche is built. And though they can be challenging, they have the advantage of being self-activating. Unlike trines, where you've got to go get the thing the trine is saying, the square is self-activating. The square just thrusts the challenges up into you and at you, and puts you in a position where you have to rise to the occasion of the square, and that is where you are. So one other way to say Mars retrograde in Aries is to say that Mars is going to be making squares to many of these very high potency planets, such as Pluto and Saturn, and this means you really have to grab hold of that energy and get a grip on these challenges. And you'll be glad you did. These are necessary points of progress for you. They are necessary things that you have to fully engage with every modicum of your energy. Now, I want to talk about some of the self-actualization elements of Mars in Aries. I think that that is what this whole thing is about, is self-actualization, which means making yourself actual. It means showing up. It means being fully present. We have a problem right now, which is that for the last 20 years, we have been under... I'm going to look at myself be blurry, but the reflection will be less distracting for you. The digital consciousness has done a number on people. It has provided many opportunities. The opportunities seem to be more democratically distributed at the beginning, and now we're in this phase where like 5 people own the entire internet. It's a real fucking mess. And one of the numbers that this has done on people is a severe psychological number of driving people out of their bodies, shattering attention spans, making it impossible for many people to read books that should be very easy for them to read based on their simple ability to know what a word means and to be able to read a sentence. And they went to school and read books in school. Now suddenly people find it very hard to actually read. They're bestsellers, and most of them go unread. That really, your bestseller list status ought to be based on who passed the 5-question quiz about what the book was actually saying. And there is necessary now a claiming back of incarnated physical reality that is absolutely essential to claim back. And so this is soul retrieval of Chiron, of Mars and Aries part 1, is claiming back your ability to be incarnate and to be solid in your physical presence. I believe this must include the the conducting of meetings in person. All of this Zoom stuff, I mean, it's good as a thing that gets by, but you may notice that your more powerful bonds in any Zoom meeting are with the people that you have already encountered in person, even if you just met them for 5 minutes on a street corner. Or had lunch with them once, or maybe visited them once, or did some project in person in their town or in their city. And what you may notice is, and I trust you will, is that when you bring things into an incarnate, in-person reality, you're going to be stronger and more influential in that situation. And this is very important to recognize in these times when there is so much vapid, ethereal stuff just floating around on the astral plane where nobody is really grounded. Then there is the soul retrieval part of recapturing your mission, of claiming what it was in your history that you need to have, need to be, need to possess, needed to grow into. One of the things that is sadly true about our lives, particularly in the United States. So I didn't grow up anywhere, and I have not really been privy to too many people growing up in other countries. But we have big dreams as children about what it is we're going to do and what it is we're going to become when we grow up, and very few people actually get there. What tends to happen is that by the time you're applying for college, your educational investment now, once you're out of high school, most people don't pay for high school. Some do, but very few do. Is based on investment value, and so it is of limited value in most families for a person to go to art school. Art happens to be a very practical thing, and there are opportunities there, but not like, for example, accounting and finance and library science. God knows what happens to that, though. And so what I'm proposing here is that you go back through the stages of your career, and you collect the things that you gave up. You retrieve the elements of your professional professional aspiration that you left behind in the past, and you claim them back. One of the things that's happening as a result of all of this, this like line of unemployment, like it's like we're going along like that, and then this was like 2008 and 9. Oh, it goes up a little bit, and then boom, 2020. Suddenly, the economy just dumps 20% of the jobs, and then like what's going to happen? If you're one of the people who's had to live through that, and you have had your work reality rearranged in some way, I suggest that you use the elements of your forgotten history, and that you reclaim those things, and that you become the things that you want it to be, or use those as a guide as you're making this next step in your professional life. Because if you have been put in this position, you have been put in a position where you have to make new decisions. You have to go through changes. And why not use this as an opportunity and as an occasion to make the kinds of changes that you want to make? Okay, another element of soul retrieval is, let's see, involves your business relationships and your partnerships. And one of the things you'll want to adapt for, adjust for, and possibly completely correct is any opportunity you miss to take executive power in your business dealings, and to some extent family dealings, where that caused something to go wrong, where had you been in charge, you're pretty sure things would have gone well, because you saw the things that needed to happen and the things that needed to change, and you were not in a position to do that. there is about to be a big reshuffling of your business relationships. I'm going to get to that in half a moment, and that involves an expansion of your professional circle, an expansion of the circle of potential partners in your life, and it is crucial that you be either the majority owner of any enterprise, giving you full power over the enterprise, or that you be on the senior partner level of anything that you're starting, that you not ever be coming along for the ride unless you're not that attached and invested, in which case you shouldn't be doing it, because the things you do are going to have a tendency to succeed, and you want to make sure that you're in the position of having total responsibility to make sure that they actually do. One of the qualities of the 10th house is accountability and responsibility all the way up to the top, and that means you. Just does. And I suggest you never allow power to be in any way pawned off or delegated, relegated, or in any way assigned to other people where they have control over your affairs and your investments, including the affairs and investments of your talent, your personal time, energy, and unique abilities. So what we're seeing here really is a claiming of leadership and responsibility with Mars retrograde in Aries, and that you fully embrace your leadership role. And leadership role means responsibility. Your ability to be the responsible party because you're the right person to be the responsible party. All right, let's now let's look at a couple of other. One last major factor in your chart, and this is really the direction that everything is headed, because these three planets, in addition to Pallas Athene in Capricorn and maybe a few other bits, but this is quite enough to have Jupiter, the largest planet, Saturn, the second largest planet, Pluto, the most potent planet, all heading into Aquarius. These two will head in in mid-December, and they'll form a conjunction, Jupiter conjunct Saturn, on the 21st of December, on the northern hemisphere winter solstice, which is to say that on the day that the sun crosses your 7th house angle, Jupiter and Saturn form a conjunction on your 8th house angle. And so this is this is after all this Mars retrograde stuff has happened, where you are going to be given all these opportunities to claim your authority over yourself and practice claiming your authority over your affairs and all of that. Then suddenly there's this major watershed, which is a lifetime watershed of this conjunction that only happens every 20 years. I mean, the last time this conjunction happened was in 2001, and by the way, it happened in Taurus. So I'm not sure what degrees, but in Taurus somewhere. So you might want to ask what that was about, go back in time and look at that. And by the way, speaking of long-term events, the Saturn conjunction to Pluto last occurred in Libra in 1981-82, so we're in this time of very rare events, and we're living through this. And of course, rare astrological events translate into rare other events, and life is never going to go back to the way that we remembered it. But now you're in a position to colonize the new world, to take authority and advantage of your knowledge, experience, position, and calling, and your astrology in this new world. And this includes Jupiter and Saturn moving into this house of financial partnership, inheritance, investment into you, dowry flowing toward you. The 8th house is the house of things that flow toward you. And into this house of things that flow toward you is this conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, the two largest planets, in the sign Aquarius. And so that is talking about group partnerships of some kind, including financial partnerships of some kind. And what I suggest is that you take this very seriously, and that you beginning now, study the configurations of people. Study the leadership team in any company that you're in or any company that you've been in, that you've served in, including as an employee. Study the way that people configure themselves for maximum efficiency or complete disaster or something in between. Notice the dynamics of groups. Notice how individuals change when they're in groups and account for that. One thing I would suggest is that you never relate to a group as a group, or that this be something you only do after you've built many, many one-on-one relationships and you also understand the personal dynamics between and among people in the group. And that you remain in a position of chairmanship or executive authority with any group that you convene. This is how you will cultivate respect. It is how you will cultivate the maximum talent. But also, you have to be the one who is the master of the dynamics of the group. That you are the one who is basically taking care of traffic flow, taking care of assignments, taking care of asset management and assignment of budgets to projects. That you not delegate that part. You delegate maybe other parts, other specializations, programming or coming up with marketing concepts or photography or whatever, some other smaller coordination role. But that when it comes to managing the finances of the thing, you are the one in charge of managing charge of managing the finances. I will tell you that Planet Waves started to succeed financially when the accounting desk was put right there, and where I could watch and talk to the person handling the books over a period of years, 3 paces away from my desk. And I suggest that you take that to heart, and that you keep your eye on the accounting books and the balances at all times. You are entering a time of potentially incredible success, where you can be on the leadership team of the new world that is forming on this immediate community level, and potentially much larger, and that you can be part of the resistance of the forces of evil that are currently working around the clock overtime. We can tell this because of all the retrograde planets in Capricorn, by the way. And later in the autumn, as these planets start to station direct in Capricorn, we're going to see what the plans were. Little bits of shit are seeping through the cracks. You want to keep track of this. You want to keep track of what the corporate and the government worlds are doing, because these are things that actually involve you. I'm not saying like read every page of every newspaper every day, but you should know the big movements, see the agendas in operation, and be constantly looking for your edge, your opportunity, and where you might fit in for success and maximum benefit of your leadership abilities, which are significant. All right. With that, hopefully this is the last time I have to do a Cancer reading for a little while. The other 2 were good. I kind of got the points more refined as I went through and highlighted certain things, and I've put much more emphasis on the financial management piece of this. That was not so much in the other versions, and that may be the most important part of this reading, because he or she who controls the money controls everything. All right. That all said, thank you for your trust. Please check out your rising sign. If you have access to it, share these readings with others. Tell them where they came from. Send them back my way, but please do share them if you think that they will benefit. Thanks again, and bye for now.